All right, welcome everyone to our latest Biz Sugar Mastermind Community webinar. We do these the second and fourth of every month, second and fourth Wednesday, I'm sorry. And today we're really happy to have Jeannie Hill, and she is going to talk to us. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Okay, well, thank you. It's a topic that has absolutely fascinated me for years. And I started in beta when schema.org was announced that it was created with Bing, Yahoo, Yandex, and Google, and very much with the marketing community that Aaron Bradley led. And that's kind of what tipped me in this direction. And it was just really fun to be a part of the beta community before that went live, and has so transformed how our SERPs appear, since so much of it is coming from schema. And much more than that, just how Google information retrieval responds to search queries. So that was really kind of what kicked me off in this direction. And I have followed the patents that have come along all during this time, in particular anything Aaron Bradley mentioned, or Tristan Upstill, or Emily Moxley in particular. Those were the ones that I had alerts on and followed everything that they shared. So this has been something that has really been a keen interest to me, and it's very exciting to have been a front runner with several of my clients with doing, you know, the actions that it would take in order for them to win right on the SERP. So I've been very grateful for clients that trusted me to let me take a direction this way. Now I'm noticing that this is, I don't know if this is showing the title, but perhaps if it's drawing from Google Docs doesn't follow all the wonderful features I put in on my PowerPoint. There we go. Wow. Okay. So would you like to move it to the next slide? There we go. So this is just a quick definition for all those who are just new to the term SERP. It's the search engine result pages. And I have been tracking them for, oh goodness, maybe about 8 years along this venue, and really taking note of actual time search results. So while there are many tools, and I'm thankful for them, but mostly this is my own review of the SERPs. And then going back to the different clients and the content that we're making, and creating what we believe would be the most suitable content type for the SERP feature or result on the SERPs that we would like to gain. And of course, always the focus is, what does the audience need? So that's where I've done, if you followed my blog post on the user experience and the customer first, it really is started with what formats are they looking to consume. So this is very interesting, a Kohler faucet, which I bought for a rental unit that I own, and it's just amazing to see how diverse this is right now. You can click on the rating tab to get more reviews. You can click on the hour tabs so that you don't drive there and they're not open. And it very much ties into local search intent. So I find the SERPs are quite different based on how Google would assess the intent of a search query. So this is a local intent. You can go to the next slide. So quite interesting to do this across different verticals. I do quite a bit in healthcare, some in real estate, home services, etc. And I find that it varies a lot. It varies significantly. So the types of SERPs that get displayed obviously are what Google thinks is going to be the best result for that specific searcher. And it varies so much. You just can't take it from one client to the next client, or one industry to the next industry. I have done this on my laptop, I've done it on my mobile, I've done it, you know, on my MacBook Pro, I've done it in northern Minnesota or out in DC visiting families, just to see what changes based on my device or my location. And also the SERPs are very different depending on whether or not the intent behind it is looking for a brand or a non-brand, which is basically information. So this is where I end up with quite a detailed spreadsheet for each client. Next slide. So I shared there on Twitter that I have been following several patents and who I follow them from. This one has been a particular interest to me. It's called the Structured Entity Information page, and that refers to the SERP page that Google is going to display per user's history, and per query. So this was interesting when it was first issued, was in 2014, 2015 it was reissued, 2018 it was reissued. These each were different patents, but each one of them took the same name, Structured Entity Information page. And I think that reading this and following this has helped me prepare for some of the algorithm changes and anticipate them, and as well as with the helpful content update. So just to say, Corey shared this yesterday in a webinar, and I believe it was absolutely true, that it's always been about helpful content. But I think because we've been slow learners, sometimes Google had to really push this out in a big way. So, but this particular patent, if you go back in and read through it about the user activity history, the information type models, and the entities information, it'll ring a bell with you, and this is an active patent. You know, who knows how much Google's relying on it, but a lot of the discussions around it and content into it seem to apply today to what's going on what displays on the SERP. I would imagine we will see another iteration of this, or certainly more patents. Next slide. So this is out of the different things that Google has said in statements, their search documents. This is one of the quotes that I think relates the most to this topic today, how SERP analysis can inform your content optimization. So it's talking about its methods and systems, which probably are drawn from those patents, and how they work to create the most effective way to present the right entity information to a specific user in a given moment. So the thing that I bolded here is information that users are most likely to consider important. Also in that patent, here's some of the text that I pulled out. It gives an example of an information card, and it talks about how diagrams and the different methods for displaying structured information pages on the SERPs. So this is kind of the foundation for where we'll go next in the next slide. In that patent and in the subsequent patents, each time there's a link that goes to the images that are related to or within the patent. And interesting enough, in all these years since I've been following this in 2014, the example that Google gives in this patent is for Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, it's fun to have tracked how this displays differently over the years. 2018 it was different, and today it's different, as well as when it started. So this I pulled yesterday because I wanted the most recent example of what Google gives as an example of how they are displaying information on the SERPs. So what's fascinating here is if you look up at the top, we have the menu option bubbles. So not only can you go and look at an overview, cast, watch movie, trailers and clips, reviews, quotes, there's another little drop-down area, and you can pick up a couple more. I think it's top stories and news. So this has evolved, and I tested at least monthly to just see what may have changed. And it seems to me that Google is doing what they're talking about. They are responding and changing what displays in the SERP to what they believe is the most useful information to the searcher. So there's a tremendous amount now of interactivity that the user can do right on the SERP. And of course we know that is what Google is doing, is they are keeping people on the SERP. So somebody can say they already watched it, what they want to watch. If you check more on edit services, there are many different platforms where you can view it on, and then Google stores that person's preferences in their search history. It's also interesting to note here the people also ask box has returned to 4 links. And of course, if you click on them, it expands to more. But this is a very rich SERP, and I've only scraped the top of it here. I think one of the things that I want to say is how visual it is really stands out to me. And here we have an entity carousel. So sometimes that's products, sometimes it's top stories. In this case, what's displaying here is the cast. So you can scroll through and then click on and learn more about each cast member. So there's a lot of links coming out of these featured snippets. Next slide. So this is part of this whole love and passion for me has been just constantly reading the SERPs, not only using tools, but mostly doing it myself because I'm rechecking the same SERP and benchmarking it as there are Google algorithm updates or we hear more about content updates. So this is what I would consider changing to from a traditional approach, which has been more keyword-based, to perhaps to how we've created content, to an intelligent approach of reading the SERPs and then optimizing our content based on user demands. So it really flips it around to what does your audience want to see on the SERP when they Google information about your company or your services. Next slide. What's interesting, the other thing that I follow a lot is what's happening both on the informational side and then the transactional side. So Google is certainly very focused on retail. And what's very interesting is some comments that have been shared that reflect how Google is even right now giving more clicks to featured snippets than it is, say, position 1 for a keyword. That was actually reaffirmed this morning in several who joined the SEMrush chat. But I'm finding it true in the SERPs that I track. So, for example, in my Q&A or FAQ schema, we are adding links with tracking codes. So this helps us understand what activities are being taken on the content optimization that we create and publish for clients. This little image of popular products is one actually from Google, and there's kind of 3 focus areas that I put for the retail clients on the SERPs. And one is it really to get agreement and to get something, a content piece that's ready to win featured snippets on the SERP. It takes good communication between the marketers, the salespeople, the content writers, the SEO, and I find that the more people feel their opinion is valued and they have a chance to communicate, the easier it is for us to come up with agreement and be agile in our responses for creating content to win visibility on the SERPs. The other piece that is, of course, so important is to understand what SERPs you have a chance to win along the sales funnel. And so that's something that we would call this Google SERP real estate. I'm sure you're all familiar with that term, but it's amazing the clicks and sales that are coming without somebody even going to a shopping cart. So for example, when there's rich information there about the company, people are calling our businesses and placing an order where they can speak with somebody, and the sales funnel just moves right along. because the other one is really gathering data and optimizing it. So when you gather data from the SERPs versus our traditional method of what's happening on a website, then you have the ability to target an audience even before they would go to your website, or if they don't, if they prefer to stay on the SERP. Next slide. So here again is related to retail, which I find so fascinating. These are different ways that the SERPs are letting consumers search and make purchase decisions by visual search. And also there's continually more and more image rich with Search On that we just had. It was very fascinating to see the new announcements of what's coming in the remainder of 2022 that's going to further image-rich SERP results, and in this interest, particular for retail. Next slide. So this is, as somebody who's buying the iPhone 14 Pro, or Apple iPhone, this has been an interesting piece for me to track those SERPs, and you can see here how visually rich this retail page is and how much information somebody can get before they ever need to interface directly with a business. So I find this helpful. By the time I called my business accountant at the Apple Store at the Mall of America, I was well along the path of making my purchase decision and knowing exactly which iPhone 14 I wanted, including the storage and the service plan. Next slide. So here's a carousel. I really enjoy getting clients in the popular products carousel. And it's as you can see up here again, we have menu bubbles so somebody can refine their search and get it to very quickly display information on more exactly what they are searching for. So here you can see immediately they can get a price. They can get the company, where it's at. Is it at Macy's? Is it at Poshmark? Is it at Bloomingdale's? You can see the number of reviews and the quality of reviews per item. And this is before the searcher has ever clicked through to a website to make a purchase. So this is very much about how a business, through their content creation, can connect with consumers on immediate SERPs in order to sell more. Next slide. So here is what's just so amazing is the e-commerce that's occurring right on the SERP. And I'm finding that it's really important, again, for these different teams and stakeholders to stay very closely aligned to true business goals. So as far as content that we're publishing, we're not diluting or duplicating content with other interests, but we're staying very focused on what the consumer or our target audience is interested in. And then we can track the product revenues, the profit margins, and in particular for this case, the SERP conversion value and clicks, again, because of our UTM parameters. I think this is a tremendous value to project managers. Many of them may not be, that we're interfacing with, haven't had time to stay as current on all the algorithm updates. And so what we're able to bring to them and add to their reporting is improved SERP clicks and sales reporting, because many of them are wondering, what happened to our clicks? Well, many times they gained the sale on the SERP and they didn't have a click that they could track that sale to. So it's fantastic to have real-time product sales data for making future marketing decisions. Next slide. So sometimes people have asked me when I'm trying to convince a customer, you know, how does this help a business? How does this really help a person find their product? So here's just one example. I think I already showed you, you know, getting in the popular products carousel there. But this one is how many times people search by video. And video can be so transactional. So here my query because I'm going to buy a snowblower as I get ready for Minnesota winters. And as I put in information on buying a snowblower, immediately this is what came up. These thumbnails, the way I'm doing it for clients, when I put video schema on a video piece that goes in a web content piece, we are able to put in what shows here as the key moments in a video, so somebody can go exactly to what they want to view about the video, and they can get the information. Like here, it might be 5 things to consider when purchasing a snowblower. So this is where these visual SERP features are very much aiding people along the buyer's journey and helping them make purchase decisions. So I think this has put a greater focus on each business's own media. And when your own media is of quality, and there certainly are requirements for getting your own media in SERP features, they can powerfully drive engagement on the SERP. Next slide. So this is a big part of what I do, and I'll give just a thumbs up here to WordList, who I've been using for years, their agency package, and Andy has just been amazing. And this is where within our content, we are doing entity linking. So this goes back to a Google patent that demonstrates how the properties and the entities are relationally connected and can send information to the search engine. So through entity linking in particular, there are other ways. You don't have to use schema, but schema is a very powerful way. We can use same as in an article or many format types and provide the information that would be the relationship nodes that can show up in the Google Knowledge Graph, so that we can have our products and our company information, we being our clients, richly populating the Google Knowledge Graph. Next slide. So one of the focuses in my contracts is increasing qualified user clicks to the client from the SERPs. Since we find more and more people this is just a trend. It's what Google's displaying more, and it's what consumers are responding to more. Here's a table that shows some of the key ones that I like to target. Again, it will depend on the product or the service. Does it have local intent? Does it have brand intent? The different aspects that go into determining for each project which SERP feature we're going to go after. I put up here some of my favorite ones. Would start with rich snippets, knowledge graphs, and people also ask. So the rich snippets in related search, and I'll mention CaliaCube here. Jason Barnard is fantastic on the brand SERPs and building your brand SERP. This is more informational and transactional content that I'm talking about here. But by far and away, the rich snippets and the related search own the most clicks somebody searches on their brand. Next slide. So here's another example, and it's just very interesting to see what information currently that Google is displaying on the SERPs first, second, and third in this case. So this is a very hot topic as far as it's a workout center that a lot of the team players use. And so because of the microdata, the schema that they have on page, you can see right there the information that is displayed immediately in the SERPs. National team players, 12. Current transfer record, squad size, average age. And then we drop down to people also search for. So it's interesting when we're creating content, if we don't have content that's that deep, then we can find right in people also search for other content entities that we can create or go back and optimize that we have existing but that aren't working as hard to get visibility rate on the SERP. And here we have videos third. So in the past, sometimes I've actually seen the videos higher. So it's interesting to go back again and just watch. But by creating content that starts with the user, for example, in what's also searched for here, that is what people search for, then we can, with minimal effort, create the content that converts into customers more rapidly. Next slide. So this goes back to schema markup, and what's amazing is how well it has been built out, and I don't see this, you know, subsiding at any point in the near future. Dan Brinkley and several others, you can follow them on Twitter and different places as they talk about it. But schema.org now has been able to let you put right in your content the information, the structured data, the details that will cover the vast majority of entities that Google has previously used and leaned on in its shopping feeds. So this is giving organic search for products a tremendous lift. Next slide. There's been, I think, 5 iterations now of the Google Review Update, and it's actually called the Product Review Update. I've listed some basic information here and have definitely been tracking that because for products we work a lot with review data and are able to get that information as we went back to the popular products, and I showed you where the stars were for the different products. It showed the ratings and the number of reviews. So your review schema markup that's nested within product schema is very powerful. And Google has made 5 iterations recently to what they will qualify for what reviews display in the SERPs. It's fascinating to follow. Next slide. I do recommend finding some real leaders to follow, some people very knowledgeable in this area. So I have quoted here, I have 3 different quotes that I have followed. It's good to be affirmed or to know what they're saying. Danny Sullivan right there in the middle explains that the product reviews update works primarily to elevate product review content on a page level basis. So I think one of the mistakes that we have seen common is people will put their product schema on a category or collection page, and it is meant to be applied on a page level basis. So this makes sense to me that Google is saying the same in their product reviews update, that it is meant to be on a page level basis. I suggest following Lily Ray. Certainly always I'm listening to what John Mueller says, and thank you, John, for sharing so much valuable information, and Dr. Marie Haynes. Next slide. So again, we're going back to what's so robust in the SERP, letting the consumer or the individual searching for something make a decision right there with highly visible results. So it's fall. I love seeing the fall colors. I love the waterfalls in Minnesota. We have so many lakes. So I put in best fall colors in Minnesota. And look at the menu options that I have. The refinement filters are just so robust. Right here in the Twin Cities, on the North Shore, Lake Superior. Do I want to go to a state park? And then here we have an entity carousel of images, as you can see right under the menu, refinement bubbles. And of course, each one of those will take you directly to that park where you can, or that URL, that domain where you can get more information. So this is actually another big aspect of having the right image, having image schema, and it's working not only for getaway destinations like I was searching for here, but best Mexican restaurant, a top-rated spa near me, a theater with the best sound system if you want to go watch a play. So it's really very much a part of what is also driving informational queries and retail queries. So just to explain a Google Carousel entity list, this carousel is things of the same category. Next slide. Fascinating again at Search On. I think I wrote a page that I really enjoyed writing maybe 6 years ago on Google Maps marketing, and I keep updating it. It's amazing how many features have come out for Google Maps and how advanced it has become. So at Search On, Google announced some more features and integrations. This is a gift that they provided of Google Maps Live View, and it certainly empowers people who are looking to go someplace or make a purchase. Google Maps has a lot of features that you can use. It'll display your business hours, prime times where it's busy, which is important to know if you're trying to book a restaurant reservation. It offers eco-friendly routing now. There's arrows to give directions, and you can put your promotions and videos right up on Google Maps. So if somebody's in their car driving, looking for something right near them, say it might be a computer repair shop because something just broke, they can get this kind of visual result, which is coming up. Next slide. So back to the Google Helpful Content Update. I think because of the proliferation of content, and certainly Google has explained more, they really can't manage to crawl and display and sort through everything that's possible, and they really are looking for quality content that's very specific to that search intent. So I've written a piece as well on the Google Helpful Content Update because I think it's a big switch for some companies from their sales illegally, their promotional talk, kind of almost being pushy as far as around their bottom dollar. And this really is meant to be focused on the consumer or the search person. So this is where it's people-first content. It's about satisfying the user needs. If you're going to win in the search, you have to prove real expertise in the content that you wrote for it with unique value, not the same thing shared in other pieces or that somebody else has written. Next slide. So again, I use the word tangible here because I love the immediacy of seeing what's happening on the SERPs and letting that inform our content creation. So it's interesting that when people will go back and search again or change what their query was, they're reformatting their query, and it's really their way to try and get better information. Perhaps what they wanted wasn't displayed. So this is where following what the user is wanting can really help you know, this is the content I need to create. And this is reality. It's not what I planned. It's not traditional content research. It is watching what's tangible on the SERPs. And this is changing continually due to better information retrieval and algorithms. Also interesting at Search On, Google spoke about multi-search. So people have more ways to go find a product. I have been using Google Lens on my iPhone for years. I think many are just not aware that it's there or how to use it. But as this is coming forward and then strongly a part of Search On, I think we will find more people getting informed on how to take a picture, add some text, and put it up where it's a query for Google to say, where's this product, or where can I find this product in another color or another size? Next slide. So here I'm just summarizing. It's a lot of research. There are tools. Interesting on Search Engine Land, Bill Slosky made a comment previously too that our search tracking tools, we're glad to have them. This has really become a trending topic, so it's good to see people developing these tools. but they still have a long ways to go. And so I think you really need to rely on doing your own research. And then be agile, be willing to change your plan around what the consumer wants and take informed action. It's very interesting that Google can understand where the searcher comes from. So we may not be as clear sometimes. Did they come from social media? Did they come from an iPhone? Did they come from a press release? But that's where, when Google has that data, they can roll that into the magic of their search intent that deciphers what's going to be displayed. So it's your data collection and insights that I think are the most important, or mine for each client, that help us make the best content writing and page element choices. So one more comment here too, also from Search On, and after Search On, seeing more links directly to where information would be sourced from in the Google Knowledge Panel. So that's something that I think we can anticipate, that the Google Knowledge Panel and knowledge cards and product cards, product knowledge panels are all going to expand as Google seeks to answer more right on its own SERP. Next slide. Here are some tools. So Google is not putting it into 2 columns. So these are either research or tracking or analysis tools that I've used or know of or have tried a trial of, and I think there's just so many. I expect we'll see more coming along. Interesting enough, Grow by Data was new to me, but it's phenomenal, the visual SERP reports that it offers. Next slide. So there's the end. There's how to reach me. And I'm interested in comments. Thank you for joining me. There's just so many of you have rich experience, and I'd love to hear what you're doing to analyze the SERP and make changes. Thank you.
All right, Jeannie, thank you so much. I have a feeling everybody's kind of going, wow. And there was so much in there, they might have to think on some of it for a while. We do have a question from Martin. He said, Google Lens sounds interesting and scary at the same time. What will they do with the data?
Yeah, does Google tell us that? You know, it's interesting to see the transition to Google Analytics 4 and how much that may be behind it, the whole privacy issues, what data they're allowed to collect, what data they can store, what data they can use. So I think this is something that will be an ongoing discussion for us. But it has been really interesting to see, say, John Mueller, Martin, others really share more about how Google Search works. We've had more documentation in Google Docs on how Google Search works. I should have added that here. So I think if you're like me, it's really fun to follow the patents. They're intense to read, and sometimes I'm taking them in bite-sized chunks. But I think the more I do so, the more I get used to their terminology. And so whether it's in their documentations, their help docs, on their search forum, or in their patents, we can start to get a feel for what they might be doing with this data. But clearly the answer boils down to they're just trying to provide a better search experience for their customer, which is the searcher.
Funnily, there is a thing called Plant Lens, and people also use Google Lens to identify plants. The reason I've heard of it is in like wild edibles and foraging groups. People use Google Lens or Plant Lens to decide whether a plant is what they think it is or maybe something that might kill you. And so they use it to get a preliminary idea and then try to go find an expert to find out what it really is, for sure. Because you don't like risk your life on a computer that said it probably is something. But anyway, I thought you might find that interesting. That the only time I hear of people using it is to identify plants and especially wild plants.
I have used it like I've had different squirrels in my yard, and I can take a picture of it with Google Lens and then find out what type of squirrel it is. So, but I believe we're going to see this really expand with the way Google mentioned it at Search On, and that new features will be coming, and how people can take a picture of something and then add text. Previously, the Google Lens, it just worked the way you explained it, but I think now somebody can add a more specific query to it, and Google will respond with more unique content to make sure they're closer to that search intent.
Huh. Yeah, so I can see people, I think I've seen it mentioned in bird identification, and I would think that it would also be useful for mushroom ID and snake ID. Because
yes, and you can use it to identify a product. So if you're out shopping and there's a jacket you like, you can take a picture of it. It's interesting how much information is stored in an image right now. Oh, just one other comment that I will share that I have found the hard way. When I have updated some image URLs, after I do quite a bit of image optimization, somebody will come to me with their website and they want to get in the SERPs because they know I love this, and their images don't have the resolution or size or format, or they have wrong URL naming or something, so they're missing out on some of this presence in these rich featured snippets. But when I change the URL to the image, it takes a lot longer for Google to crawl and know the new image than it does a change on a web page that I resubmit.
Huh. I wonder why. I don't know. Because there are people doing a lot of it, maybe? So they're just busier?
Oh, I don't know. That is a good question. I think we should ask that to John Mueller or somebody. But I think they just have so much to index and catalog and crawl that they simply have to, start with what they believe is a top priority. So I really think it matters what you do with your own media. Honestly, so many times somebody has just gone and grabbed something off of the web, and that doesn't display your business. It represents stock photos. Maybe that person has seen it, 5 or 6 times elsewhere, so it doesn't resonate with the brand. And so the images that we take, I believe, have enormous importance, especially since the SERPs are getting more visual.
Right. Yes. Good images, multiple views of images makes a huge difference when you're buying. The other people I've seen use Google Lens are retail e-commerce arbitrage people. So they take a picture of something they found in a Goodwill, and then they find it on Amazon and find out what it's worth and whether they want to buy it for whatever the price is, so they can resell it on eBay or Amazon. And so
Gail, I hadn't thought of that. That's an excellent point. Thank you.
Yeah, that's another way it's used. So we've got some more questions. I may not do your name right. I'm sorry if I don't. Johannes asked, so first said, thank you so much, and then asked, what are your most successful schema functions for entering the SERPs for local services?
Local services is really another game. It's really powerful to use local business schema. There's a tremendous amount of information that you can add there. The geo coordinates, of course, the name of your business. When you nest this, you can include products or services that are offered, hours that are offered, different locations that are offered. So, of course, you can't just cram your schema with data that's not on the page. So it's really what information I use depends on which page type and the purpose of the page. But that is a very important one for local businesses.
All right, so Amy said that she thinks image crawling is going to be slower than text crawling just due to the density of the images versus text. It's just a lot more data, right?
Yeah, it is interesting. You know, you can use the Google Cloud API and different things to condense and get your images ready for on the web. So I think there's a lot of preparation that makes image recognition, refinement, resolution, compression a lot better. And I would imagine it's going to be exciting to see how that moves along. It's a good question. I would say out of text, voice, and image, voice is the harder one for Google because somebody might speak blurry, they might have an accent, they might use slang terms, they might use, you know, acronyms, and so that has been harder. Eric Enge has shared about that for years, that he believes between those three. Certainly we've had text around for a long time, but now with the advanced algorithms, with these new features from Search On, with Google Lens, I think we're going to really see that it's not as hard as it was in the past to really get an image used and there on the SERP. So here's another just interesting thing. I'm a Google Local Review Guide, and I am just shocked at the number of times that an image I have taken of a local restaurant or destination, and then I go find that Google is using it on their SERP for the image that they're displaying in the knowledge graph. But sometimes I think that might be because I know how to take an image, and I know what to form the URL or data to put in it when I upload it.
Right.
So there's a tremendous amount of image optimization.
Yeah, that's probably why. So you're optimizing the image for them. All right, so Johannes also asked, do you cite explicit people also ask questions on your pages and answer them individually?
Yes. I think it's very powerful. Now Google has we've seen a lot of testing around FAQ schema, question answer schema, but ever since people are using voice as much or more than text-based search, it really is important. And so this is a piece that's evolving enormously.
So I have a follow-up question to that. A long time ago in the internet, we had separate pages for separate keyword phrases. But now the trend is to a massive page that would have like a whole lot of questions and answers all on one page. So like a very comprehensive post about something, and then at the bottom of it, an FAQ, and all the people also ask questions and all the answers, all on one page. Do you feel that the all on one page strategy is the best strategy now?
Again, it's going to depend on the page, but you're absolutely right. It has very much changed from a keyword approach to a topic cluster approach or a search entity approach. And I think it's really hard for content writers and web designers perhaps who are tracking along with digital marketers and SEOs to understand how this has changed, because the terminology introduced is just so new. But with the ability to add jump links at the top, say if you put a content table, with passage search, somebody can, when the Google displays, they can take that passage that answers their question and take them right to that passage on the page. So it may lead them to the URL with the answer, but they don't have to start at the top and go find it. And so that makes it a lot easier to have long-form content, because people don't have to read all of it hunting. They can be taken right to the content piece that would meet their immediate search query need. It certainly is easier for your ontology structuring. It's easier for backlink building, to build a strong topic hub for pages that are really powerful versus dozens or hundreds of pages. I think sometimes the more we have pages that still exist per keyword base, the way they were created, we often end up with different issues such as duplicate content, or thin content. And with the Google Helpful Content Update, a lot of those pages have just dropped out of being surfaced. So it sometimes I wouldn't do content pruning without a good research analyst behind it, somebody who understands these SERP changes, understands what pages users were using at different stages along the buyer's funnel. But we are, in some instances, have combined 3 or 4 pages into one and have more clicks and sales off of a product, and people can find the information because of the jump links or the passage indexing that takes them right to that spot on the page.
Right, I actually see those in the SERPs where the little, the snippet that's on a really long page is the answer presented on the search page. And so it's way down there in the page, but it's still the one that's being featured in the top of the SERPs. So
yeah, and with,
go ahead.
I was going to say, with our answer cards, with our product knowledge panels, that is pulling very specific information off the page and showing just that specific, unique, condensed answer to the user. So that's where a lot is happening on the SERP without them needing to go to the web page.
Yes. And so I was going to say, Johannes said, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. And then he asked, do you use table of contents? And I would say that in the larger blogs that have been around a really long time, we all use a table of contents plugin now. And because we tend to write long-form content, so it's very valuable to have a table of contents, and it's easy to make that happen in content. Do you use table of contents on what kind of sites? Do you use a table of contents, and is it auto-generated? Are you manually creating them?
I'm still preferring to do them myself by adding jump links, you know, where I'm taking over a site and helping a client. We very much are looking at the pages that are the most important for revenue, that are most informational to users, that have the most organic traffic, and making sure that it's easier for them to find information on that page. What's really interesting with using jump links to create your table of content, one, you don't have the weight of a plugin, you don't have the possible conflicts of a plugin with another plugin, but also in those SERP results, many times you'll see site links to the page, and it's taking them directly from the jump links that I provided in my handmade table of contents.
Right, so is a jump link is the same as a bookmark, basically?
No, it's coding that you will put under a section, or say under a header 2, and you can add it right in your H1 or H3, and then you carry it up to your jump link and your table of contents. So when somebody looks at what's the table of contents on that page, if they click on it, it'll take them immediately to that part, that section on the page.
Right. Yeah, I think it's kind of the same,
really
different code. It looks the same to the user, but it's a different implementation. So it's better for SEO.
Yeah. Yes. And you have to be, you know, I think experience really helps somebody refine that their titles aren't too long, that their targeted search queries are front-loaded, that the simpler you can make it, the more your table of contents is easy for somebody to just view and use on a mobile phone where the screen's smaller. So there's a lot of good logic to them.
Okay, so this has been, there is so much packed into this that people are going to have to watch this. And I want to tell everyone, the replay will be available. It will be put into the blog post that you saw that promoted this event. And it will be on the BizSugar YouTube channel. And it will be emailed to the people that registered as well. And so if you're here, you registered because that's the only way to get here. And I wanted to invite everyone to 2 things. One, we do these webinars the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of every month, except for some holidays. And there's a schedule on the blog at blog.bizsugar.com/webinars, and a tab at the top, real easy to get to. But we also now have a live text chat, kind of like a Twitter chat, every Wednesday at 2 o'clock Central inside the mastermind. So to join the mastermind, which is totally free, and then we have a different topic and sometimes guests every week. And if there's an appointed hour, we post some questions and people chat and talk and socialize. And it's just a fun way for all of our members to get to know each other and build relationships, create some collaborations, make more money for everybody. So I want to invite everyone to both of those. If you need any information and you didn't catch how to do that, there's information in the blog posts on the BizSugar blog, or you can email me at community@bizsugar.com. I want to thank you all for being here today. Thank you especially Jeannie for that really excellent presentation.
Thank you, Gail, for the opportunity and each one who participated. So much fun.
All right. Bye, everyone. See you next time.